here. I have often said, writing for USA Today as well as allfortennessee.com. His name is Caleb Calhoun, and if you're not reading him, especially in the off season, you are really, really missing out. To begin with, I guess I wanted to say on the hardwood against Tennessee Tech and for the basketball team or what have you. You wrote a story yesterday, or at least it was published, his retirement at Miami. And you kind of point to him as the guy who lit the match for the fire of Tennessee football's demise. Can you elaborate a little bit and let people get a sneak preview so they can go to allfortennessee.com and read that piece, because I really did think it was well done.
Thank you. Yes, it started for people. People need to go back to 2000. Tennessee went 8-4 in 2000, and I remember that year. Even though they went 8-4, it wasn't naturally going to rebuild that year.
Sure.
They had everybody coming back to 2001. Yeah, a top 5 class. And in 2000 and in 2001, they wiped the floor with Georgia, with recruits from the state of Georgia and top recruits. And Mark Richt comes in 2001, and from 2002 to Fulmer's last year, they only got 2 elite recruits in any of their top 5 classes. They only had a top 10 class 3 times, and all 3 classes were total busts. And in any way you could imagine, they were busts. And I think what happened was with Mark Richt at Georgia, Fulmer had to go a little more national, and he had to be a little less picky about players he wanted to get. And, you know, when you get less picky about players, you end up getting quite a few guys who bring in character issues and things like that. Mm-hmm. Problems Fulmer probably wouldn't have been really changed what Tennessee could do recruiting-wise.
I have talked a lot about how many players come from Tennessee, how many players come from Georgia, and really the rest of the South, even Mississippi. Mississippi puts out more college or more NFL players per capita than any state in the country. Not overall; it's not that big population, but they gotta put some players in those 3 main. Caleb Calhoun of All for Tennessee. It's like, okay, automatic W, the way you might. I think Richt was able to do this, whereas a Goff was not able to, or a Ray Goff, or another coach was not able to keep the Georgia players in state. Why do you think that was?
I don't know, and that's a question that kind of has piqued my curious interest. Now, the thing is, there were no 247 or rival services out during Jim Donnan's first 2 years, or any of Ray Goff's years. So I can't really break it down fully, but my guess would be, again, if this is the peak of the 90s and Jim Donnan, his first 2 years, or Ray Goff's first 3 to 4 years struggled, it's going to be harder to recruit. Bobby Bowden's most successful run of any made a decision in the 1870s to create 2 schools with Ole Miss and Mississippi State, and they thought about making just 1 major state school. And if they had just had 1 major state school, that state school would be the most dominant.
Mississippi State or Ole Miss has had pockets of success. I mean, certainly Ole Miss with Johnny Vaught, but I mean, a lot has changed culturally, financially, everything that might make that such accomplishments extremely difficult for the Rebels or the Bulldogs in the future and such. Jackie Sherrill did have some success. Hey, he was leading Tennessee national championship year in the 4th quarter with his collection of JUCOs. He was able to do that. And, Dak Prescott was able to take the Bulldogs. And it doesn't really matter if you're Southern Mississippi or Tennessee, or for that matter, I don't know, Boise State or somebody like that. Anyway, we're talking or the Mark Richt influence. Something I can discuss with you. I bet you didn't know this. Richt was offered the opportunity to replace John Majors as offensive coordinator Walt Harris. I'll bet you didn't know that.
I did not know that. That is an interesting take right there.
That Pitt was really down, really wanted, and I think Richt thought, yeah, I can do better than this, and he did. And, anyway, that's something, and it went to Harris, and he got Larry Fitzgerald and sort of, resurrected the program that way. So there you go. Anyhow, we're talking to Caleb Calhoun, allfortennessee.com. We're going to get an offensive coordinator in Knoxville soon. Either. I don't either. I do not either. But now let's let's see here. You mentioned you mentioned about Yursich here. Now, forgive me, I'm looking up here on gopokes.com, and it says Yursich leaving, and it says Yursich will not be part of the Cowboys after the Liberty Bowl. This was published by their staff 17 hours ago, and he is officially going to be the hire. What happened with Yursich?
I mean, and I could be wrong on this, but I was reading a report that, yeah, he has been offered and he's not returning to Oklahoma State, but it seems like he might be going to Ohio State, was what I. So, if we talk about other names, I do share anybody's concerns with Steve Sarkisian. I think Sarkisian could end up like Alvaro Petrino, who the game has just passed his offensive schemes by. Mm-hmm. I still think Sarkisian was partially at fault for Alabama losing that national championship game.
Intriguing.
A couple of years ago. And I know that's just one game, but I know they put up 41 points, but I feel like if they had Lane Kiffin, they would have won that game. And I stuck with that for a while. So I don't know about him. I had the idea to go for a dark horse who's the better candidate if you're Tennessee when, like we talked about, they're just not in a position right now where they can get a big name offensive coordinator. It's just too toxic of a situation to come into.
I like your idea of Levy. The only thing that I could think of there is, when we looked at a guy like Dan Enos, and you knew that Dan Enos was going to say, okay, hold on, I want to see offensive coordinator at Tennessee. You tell me, and so certainly, I mean, when that became open, he became the offensive coordinator at Alabama. What I find now is just, reading social media and such, and I mean, you can go, that's not necessarily a credible source, but there are some people that think that Enos might be a candidate at for the West Virginia Mountaineers job. And so could you imagine if Enos, really speculation, but I mean, it would just be the next layer of, will you find somebody, please? And you mentioned Levy. Can you imagine if Josh Heupel, who has been talked about as an NFL coaching candidate, I mean, if Levy is offensive coordinator, well, I could be the head coach here at Central Florida, and that's a good gig, if things pan out. So I don't know. But saying, who knows about this? Joined the Ohio State staff after the Rose Bowl today. So this kind of reminds me, dare I mention a Pittsburgh Steelers reference, but when Mike Tomlin was hired as their head coach, and you had one newspaper saying Mike Tomlin was going to be hired as the Steelers head coach, and another newspaper in Pittsburgh saying it was going to be Russ Grimm, who at the time was a Steelers assistant and had interviewed for the job. I mean,